Today's episode is brought to you by DAX Copilot from Microsoft. DAX Copilot is your AI assistant for automating clinical documentation and workflows to help you be more efficient and reduce administrative burdens that make us feel overwhelmed and burnt out. To learn more about how DAX Copilot can help improve healthcare experiences for both you and your patients, visit aka.ms/knock-knock-hi. That's aka.ms/knock-knock-hi. Knock, knock, hi. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Knock, Knock, I with me, your host, Dr. Glockenflecken. This is your one-stop shop for all things eyeballs. You want to learn how eyeballs? You come here. And I got a little bit of eyeball stuff for you today, but right off the bat, I want to talk about something that happened. It happened actually today, the day I'm recording this. The CEO of UnitedHealthcare, Brian Thompson, was shot and killed in New York City outside of a hotel in the early morning of December 4th. And I was operating this morning. And I finished I did 11 cases. Because it's what we do in ophthalmology. Our surgeries take 7 minutes. 11 cases. People think that's a large number of patients, but it's pretty routine. But I just going through it's very busy, so I don't have a lot of downtime whenever I'm in an OR morning. And so I was constantly going back and forth, talking to patients, doing surgery and documenting and all the things. And then I finished operating, and I looked at my phone. And I had like 1,000 mentions, tags across multiple different platforms, all about this shooting of Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthcare. And I guess whenever I'm tagged that much on social media, it's usually because somebody slept in their contacts and something horrible happened to them, or somebody went viral for tattooing their eyeball, or somebody was using Visine and they shouldn't have, a variety of different eyeball-related atrocities. So this was a new one, and it makes sense because I would say, as far as I know, I am on social media, the foremost critic of UnitedHealthcare. Insurance in general, but I do pick on UnitedHealthcare a lot more. Because in a lot of ways, they have the most egregious policies. They're on the forefront of taking advantage of the American people. And so people recognize me as, oh, that's the UnitedHealthcare guy. That's the guy that makes fun of UnitedHealth, that hates UnitedHealthcare so much. And so, of course, something like this happens in the world, I'm going to hear about it. As far as now, what I know, we don't know who this person was. We do know that the assailant was it was targeted. So this person was waiting for the CEO to get out of his car to walk into the hotel, and then went up and shot him. Still at large as of me recording this right now. The whole thing happened like 6 hours ago. And so don't know a lot, don't know the motive. And that's the big thing. Like, we don't know exactly why this person did this. You know, was it a disgruntled employee of United? Maybe. Was it one of the millions of people who have been taken advantage of by UnitedHealthcare, by the insurance company, the insurance giant? Somebody who had their healthcare withheld or denied for themselves or their family. Who knows? Could it have been somebody who maybe follows me on social media and has seen all of my videos and decided to try to do something about it? That last one, it didn't cross my mind until somebody said that on social media. Like, maybe they saw your videos. I don't think that person was meaning to be like accusatory or mean to me personally, but that kind of like stuck with me, because that is the last thing I would want. That's not the point of my content and making fun of UnitedHealthcare. it's not to incite violence. Now, the reaction to this death on social media is very telling. It's like it's just 100% jokes and snark and basically like ridicule, like he got what he deserved, that kind of thing. And so the first, I just want to reiterate the point, like with my content personally, the point of all the videos, and I stand by every single word that I've ever said about UnitedHealthcare. I stand by it 1,000%. I'd make all those videos over again. And I will continue to make videos about UnitedHealthcare as long as they're doing terrible things to the general public. The purpose of me doing those videos is, number one, to educate people, because there's a lot that happens behind the scenes with health insurance that is they're purposefully obfuscating and keeping it below the surface so the public doesn't exactly know all the malfeasance, all the terrible things that are happening to make healthcare harder for the average person and for physicians. And so part of what I do with those videos is just show people, this is what's going on. This is what Blue Cross is doing. This is what United is doing. This is what Cigna is doing. Just recently, I put up a video about Blue Cross withholding anesthesia medication to patients because the surgeries went too long. So I've been doing this for years now. So number one, it's just education. I want people to know, who otherwise would not know, that these things are problems and that this is why, your personal experience with healthcare is so difficult. And the other part of it is, hopefully, and what I do especially when I talk, when I give keynotes and things, is try to encourage people to get active in advocacy, to do things like talk to your insurance commissioner for your state, which is like the Better Business Bureau for insurance companies. I don't know if people know that. Like, there's a person who's in charge of making sure insurance companies do what they're supposed to be doing in your state, the state insurance commissioner. And also your just state legislators, or your medical, if you're a medical professional, talking to, getting involved with your state societies, advocating for change in healthcare, because ultimately that's the way we change healthcare for the better. That's the way we make positive change, is by advocating for legislative action. Because ultimately that's the way we fight these billion-dollar corporations. It's not going to be going up to a CEO and shooting him and running off. What is that going to do? There's going to be a new CEO. Is that going to change the policies of UnitedHealthcare? No. It's going to make people angry. It's going to rile people up. But is that going to be a constructive and lead to constructive change? You can disagree with me on that point, but I don't think it will. And that's not the point of what I do. I never want someone to commit violence against somebody, certainly not in my name, because of the videos that I saw. There are much more effective ways of trying to create change. And don't scoff at the whole legislative action type thing, because we've seen that work. It works. We have the No Surprises Act. Within the past year, New Jersey passed prior authorization reform. Oregon was on the cusp of passing a limitation of the corporate practice of medicine. Many other states are following along this path. Congress is starting to work on PBM reform. The FTC is paying attention and starting to bring lawsuits against PBMs. Things are happening on the legislative front now. It's not fast. I wish it was, but it's happening, and that's where we can really fight, because we're not going to fight financially because these are the richest companies in the world, but legislatively we can. And so, regardless of what you think about the CEO and him being at the helm of a company that you could argue commits violence against the public, by withholding medications and treatments and leading to financial devastation and depression and all these other terrible things. Sure. But I don't know, what good is violence going to do other than just make people really angry and upset? So I don't know. That's my take. I'm not going to blame people for their reactions on social media to something like this. The reason, and it's so telling that there's so little. I almost looking through some of the comments, not on any of my content, but just on the news story in general. There's very little, if any, sympathy given, and that's valid. I'm not going to sit here and tell people that to feel bad for this person. That's not my place. I mean, I feel bad for his family for sure. I don't know the guy, but it's you can understand how people would come to that reaction on social media. That doesn't justify the act of violence, but you can understand because of how many people all the things I've talked about in my videos are the reasons that people feel this way about UnitedHealthcare. So they're going to have very complicated, very negative things to say about the person running UnitedHealthcare. Still doesn't condone an act of violence. But I get it. People are hurting. People are hurting in this country, and a open sore that's causing that hurt is our healthcare system. Let's take a break. Hey, Kristen.
What's up?
It'd be great to have
$1 million.
Sure, but also a little bit of disability insurance.
That would be.
But we kind of dropped the ball on that.
Yeah, both of them, because you got testicular cancer twice and then had a cardiac arrest. And now you're basically uninsurable. But I love you anyway.
Yeah, it does make it a bit harder. And disability insurance is something that every physician needs to have.
It's true.
Because our job, our bodies and our ability to move our bodies are so important to the work we do.
That's right.
Well, let me tell you about Pearson Ravitz.
Tell me.
Yeah, this is a company founded by a physician, Dr. Stephanie Pearson, a disabled OBGYN who has now dedicated her career to helping physicians avoid similar oversight to, us.
Very important work.
Exactly. She's helped over 6,000 physicians get disability insurance. To find out more and get a free one-to-one consultation, go to Pearson Ravitz. That's PearsonRavitz.com/knock-knock. Again, that's www.pearsonravitz.com/knock-knock to get more information and protect your biggest investment, you. All right, we are back. I'll say one more thing to answer a question that many of people have asked me on social media. No, Jimothy did not do it. I'll leave it at that. Nope, Jimothy was not him. So he's going to continue fighting against the corporate practice of medicine, though. He's not giving up his fight to show you the terrible things that health insurance companies have done to this country. So you can look forward to seeing more of Jimothy in the future. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? I thought that I could talk about actually one thing. First, I'm going to do a couple of comments on our YouTube channel. So once again, at Glaucomfleckens, it's the podcast YouTube channel. Post all the videos there. I look at all the comments as well on those episodes. And so on the most recent episode I talked a bit about Dr. Oz as CMS director and what I thought about that. I mean, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the episode, I was not a fan of the hire. I don't think it's a good idea. I have no faith in Dr. Oz's medical knowledge or practice as someone who has promoted bogus therapies and hasn't probably seen a patient in 20 years. So anyway, you can hear my extended thoughts on that episode. And I do appreciate it. I wasn't sure how people would react to that. Like everybody agreed with me. So it's like, I feel like maybe the YouTube audience is just a very practical, very knowledgeable group of people. Probably on other platforms might not get the same reaction, but I think in general, it's not an unpopular opinion that Dr. Oz should be nowhere near like governing bodies for the healthcare system. I'm all for physicians being in leadership positions, but I don't know. Like he graduated, he's board certified, he was a great surgeon back in the day, but man, gone off the cliff, and so I'd rather have somebody else. Anyway, not me. I probably wouldn't be a good choice either. I have trouble with group projects, which is why I record myself talking to myself in my TikToks, and I'm sitting here doing a podcast by myself. Okay, so thank you for all the thoughts about Dr. Oz at Tomorrow River. Dr. Oz, it's going to hurt. Thanks for speaking out. At Marcia D. Totally agree with you about Dr. Oz. I have no faith in him. Definitely comes across as a quack. Yep, agreed. Totally agreed. I'm going to heart that one right there. I'm going to heart that one. All right, let's see. What else? Okay, here's a couple of good questions from at Travels and Books. Says, I have some questions, Dr. G. What is private practice versus other kinds of medicine in the U.S.? I'm from the U.K. That's a great question. That's one of those things that I always throw that out. Like I'm a private practice ophthalmologist, or I'm glad I'm not in academics, or if I had to be an academic physician, I might descend into a deep, dark depression. I throw out the private practice academic terms and I don't really explain it. And so thank you for that reminder. Private practice, which is a dwindling area of medicine. There are much fewer private practices out there than there used to be. A lot of reasons for that. A lot of the things I've talked about on this podcast and in my content about corporations buying up medical practices, private equity firms buying up practices and making physicians employees. But historically, private practice meant it's a practice that is owned by the healthcare professionals, like the physicians generally, like a physician-owned private practice. I guess it's not just that though. Like you can have private practices. I suppose technically, if you're just doing the dichotomy of private practice versus academics, so any non-academic practice would be a private practice. So it's not a non-profit. Many hospitals and academic centers are non-profit. So private practices are generally for-profit practices. They can be owned by physicians. Many of them are. Many of them are also owned by private equity groups, as I mentioned. And those are probably the two big ones. But yeah, so it's a for-profit entity that has like defined ownership. That's what I would consider a private practice. That's not a part of a big hospital system. So they're independent. That was the best I could do. So my thoughts always like physician-owned practices, private practices. Death of private practice means we don't have as many of those, unfortunately. I'm a big fan of private practice. Academics, as I already mentioned, I never once thought I would be good at academics. They like doing research. I do not like doing research. In private practice, I have a little bit more control over my schedule. You don't have that as much in academics. Academics does have some perks though. You get to work with residents and med students. I think that would be fun. I don't have that opportunity. You get to be on the forefront in a lot of ways of research and the latest treatments and knowledge that's shared among your department. Like that's really appealing for people. You're in that kind of environment of academic discovery. That doesn't happen in private. We're too busy. We just see all these patients. We don't have time to do research or even read about research, or like we catch up when we go to conferences and stuff. And so, academics, they're in that world of research and discovery. And so it's just like a difference in personality. That's all it is. Like I just wanted to get out. I just wanted to work. I just wanted to go see patients. I wanted to do my job clinically. I like learning about the things that people are doing, but I don't want to be the one doing the research. It wouldn't be very good. It wouldn't be very good research. I'm not good at it. I don't even know how to calculate a p-value. I barely know what a p-value is. Something about significance. There's a 5% thing in there, 0.05. It's got to be less than that. How much less? I don't know. Just a little bit less. Anyway, more power to all my academic colleagues. We need you. You're important. Also, generally, people in academics, they see a little bit more of the complex patients. That because if you're part of an academic center, you usually have more funds, more tools at your disposal. You can invest in some of the like imaging modalities and diagnostics and things that maybe a smaller community hospital or a smaller private practice doesn't have the money to do. A good example is in ophthalmology is corneal cross-linking. So corneal cross-linking is the newest treatment for keratoconus. Like if I had a patient that needed corneal cross-linking, which is not very often, I have to send them to the university, to Oregon Health Sciences University, because I don't have that technology to be able to do in my small little private practice. But the university does. They have the resources to acquire all of these kind of unique things. So anyway, the more rare your treatment or disease, the more likely you're going to end up in an academic center. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. The other question that at Travels and Books had is, I learned the other day that when you close your eyes automatically roll all the way up into your head. It feels true. Why does this happen? Good question. They don't roll up all the way. I think it's funny that people describe it as rolling up into their head because the eye's not going up at all, right? It's just, in fact, it barely goes up. It just goes up underneath your eyelids. So when you squeeze your eyes real tight, it's a protective, it's called a Bell's phenomenon. So when you squeeze your eyes, close your eyes real tight, there's a reflex that causes your eye muscles to move the eye up underneath the eyelid to protect yourself, right? Your eyes are very important. So if someone's coming at you, and you kind of close your eyes, you turn away, your eye's going to roll up just to protect it. It doesn't go up very far. It doesn't go all the way backwards. Like your eye can't do that. There's an optic nerve back there that kind of keeps things, and there's lots of other tissues that keep the eye in a normal position. But it does roll up. Yes. It's called the Bell's phenomenon. It's actually very helpful for a lot of eye disorders related to like dry eye, exposure keratopathy, people who have Bell's palsy who don't have good function of like eyelid closure. Well, you have them. What I would do is just tell them, get in the habit of just forcefully blinking. You do a forceful blink, that'll force the eye to go up and get covered by the eyelid and re-lubricate and protect the cornea. So it's actually a treatment. We use that to our advantage sometimes when we're treating things like dry eye. That's a good question. Yeah, the Bell's phenomenon. Look it up. It's just like belling up. That's what we say. The eye's belling up. It's really annoying when that happens during cataract surgery. So when I'm doing cataract surgery, it's topical anesthesia and the patient's awake. And so I rely on the patient looking at the light that they see above them. So I tell people to look at the light. Don't go to the light. That's a very different thing. No, I tell people to look at the light. And some people have a lot of struggle with this. Usually it's because they're trying to squeeze. They're either nervous, anxious. That's why a little Versed really helps during cataract surgery. They're a little bit anxious, and so they squeeze, and that causes their eye. Obviously, I have a speculum, so I'm holding the eyelid open. So as much as they squeeze, they can't close their eye because I have control of that. But when they squeeze, the eye will move up underneath the eyelid, and that makes it impossible for me to do my surgery if the eye is constantly moving up. So we have to give them a little bit more sedation to help the patient relax a little bit more. So the Bell's phenomenon can be a bit of an issue during cataract surgery. All right, let's take one more. Actually, at Travels and Books, you had 3 good questions. I'll get to your third question. These were both all really good. And so we'll be right back. One more break. Okay, another question from at Travels and Books. What are some reasons why your sclera might not be perfectly white? Great question. And thank you for saying sclera too, because a lot of people think it's the conjunctiva. The conjunctiva is actually a translucent layer right over the sclera. That white part of your eye, that is the sclera. That is a tough, fibrous, wall of your eye. All right, you need it to be tough because you don't want things squishing your eye. You don't want to have a smushed grape for an eyeball. But there are some reasons why the sclera might not be perfectly white. This question goes on to say, you see healthy people with yellow sclera, and some people like Daniel Kaluuya, the actor, who has bloodshot sclera. So there's lots of reasons that your eye might not be perfectly white. First of all, just as you get older, your eyes become a little bit more vascular. You have angiogenesis that causes you, and I think I've talked about this, it feels like I've talked about this recently. Little kids, babies, they're born, their eyes are so white. They don't have a lot of vasculature on their conjunctiva because they just, the few blood vessels they have are so healthy and robust that they don't need a bunch of extra blood vessels. Well, your vasculature kind of starts to suck a bit as you get older. And so you have angiogenesis, you get more blood vessels on the white part of your eye as you age. It's just what happens. And a lot of people will treat that with Visine. Don't do that. Only if you're having symptoms. We don't just treat redness because the eyes are red. I know you don't like it, but anyway, I've been through that before with you guys. So other reasons why the eye might not be perfectly white. Obviously, jaundice is another one. If you have liver failure, liver disease, the body does not deal with bilirubin well. It's one of the liver's jobs, and that bilirubin can get deposited in the sclera and conjunctiva and cause the eye to appear yellow. Not the conjunctiva, it's the sclera. Scleral icterus is what we call it. Although I can't say I've ever actually included that in a note. Generally, these patients are fairly sick, and so they end up in the hospital. So, but yeah, the yellowing of the sclera can be jaundice for a variety of different reasons. You can also have little yellow patches, like right at the edge of the iris on the white part of the eye. If you think of you separate the eye into like clock hours, 12 would be the top of the iris, 6 would be the bottom of the iris. Well, at 3 and 9 o'clock, you can get these little yellow patches, kind of raised patches that are called pinguecula. These are benign lesions on the eye that are a result of sun damage over time. Now, they can progress into a pterygium, which is when you get scar tissue that grows onto the surface of the cornea. But sometimes you just have these pinguecula. In fact, most people, I would say, over the age of like 50-ish, have some degree of pinguecula. Sometimes you can only see it with a microscope, but usually it's there. And it doesn't cause any problems, typically. They can get inflamed. The body can kind of react, like you get this immune reaction to the pinguecula. Generally, it doesn't cause any problems. They just kind of live there. People come in sometimes like, somebody noticed. They looked at my eye. They noticed I had a little raised little thing on the eye. Sometimes it's just their normal pinguecula, and we just give reassurance and tell them you're going to be fine. People with darker pigmentation can have what we call racial melanosis of the conjunctiva. So you get pigment deposits. Sometimes it's very marked, especially in really darkly pigmented people. You can get a lot of pigment deposit in the conjunctiva, and that's normal. That's totally normal. In white patients, it's a little bit more abnormal. Now, it might be normal, but it should be something you get evaluated by an ophthalmologist if you have unusual pigmentation or just any like noticeable pigmentation. If you're noticing it, you should probably, as a white person, you should probably get evaluated for it. But people who are like Hispanic, Asian patients who are a little bit more darkly pigmented, black patients, they typically will have a lot of pigmentation on the cornea, on the conjunctiva. That's totally normal. What else? And then other kind of things you can find on the conjunctiva would just be like a subconjunctival hemorrhage. You can get just a big red splotch because you broke a blood vessel. You rubbed the eye the wrong way. You caused a little bleed. You got a little bruise on the eye. That's what that is. We just let that heal up. Patients will come in sometimes with those, and It's usually somebody who's like, oh, my husband or wife, they looked in the mirror, they saw I had a big red spot on my eye, told me to come in. That's always the story, like 100% of the time. And we just provide reassurance. Good question. I like that. That's good. I don't think I've ever talked about like spots and colors of the conjunctiva and sclera. That was a good one. Let's see. What else can I tell you guys about? Lately, it's been like his last thing would be that's been on my mind is man, the styes are out in force lately. I don't know what it is. I've had to do chalazion excisions like every day for the past 2 weeks. So just blocked oil gland in the eyelid causes a buildup of oil in the eyelid that I've had to drain. So that's been a theme over the past week and a half. Lots of little eyelid lesions that I do excisions on, and we do those in the chair. They're pretty easy. I don't have any right now. I don't have any mystery cases for you guys. I'll be on the lookout for those, and I'm sure I'll have something for you by next week. But I think that's about does it for this episode of Knock Knock Eye. I'd love to hear your thoughts, by the way. If you have thoughts about this CEO murder, by the time this goes up, hopefully we'll get it up soon. I'm sure we're going to have more information about it. But so again, I'm recording this on December 4th. So, but I'd love to hear what you guys think. And, you can be as truthful as you want. You can, I'm not going to fault you. We talked about this already, and I would just, people are angry, people are mad, and I get that, just about UnitedHealthcare in general. And that would includes the people running the company, right? As it should. And so, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Hopefully I explained my thoughts well enough. I've been thinking about it for a couple hours now, and so I was trying to at least have some coherent thoughts about the whole issue. Let me know what you think. You can email us knockknockhigh@human-content.com, or just comment on our on the YouTube channel @GlockandFleckens. Again, I always read those. I would love to see your thoughts there. Or if you have, there were some more comments that I didn't get to today. I'm saving those for later. That's it. We'll see you next time. Thank you to my producers, Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brook. Editor, engineers, Jason Portizo. Our music is by Omer Ben-Zvi. Knock Knock I and Knock Knock High, all the Knock Knocks, are human content production. Thanks, everyone.
Knock knock. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching the episode. You can find more on that playlist over there. If you prefer to listen, or you just had your eyes dilated, you can binge full episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Or join the party over on Patreon, where you get early access episodes, hang out with us, get lots of exclusive bonus content. Hope you subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think.